They thought the library was the safest place to hurt her. Quiet, hidden, full of rules no one ever followed after hours. They were wrong. By the time the last book hit the floor, every single one of them would wish they had never laid a hand on the new teacher, and what happened next would change that school forever. The library at Northwood High was a relic from another era, tucked away at the far end of the sprawling campus like an afterthought. Its shelves sagged under the weight of dusty volumes, and the air always carried the faint scent of aged paper mingled with the occasional whiff of mildew from leaky windows. Rainy days amplified the aroma, turning it into something almost nostalgic, like forgotten stories begging to be rediscovered. Students rarely ventured here voluntarily. It was a place for detentions, forced research assignments, or the occasional hookup in the shadowed aisles. Whispers echoed louder than shouts in the high, ceilinged room, bouncing off the walls lined with faded posters promoting literacy and anti-bullying campaigns that no one took seriously. For Miss Eliza Carter, though, the library was a sanctuary. At 29, she was the newest addition to the faculty, her name still tripping awkwardly off the principal's tongue during morning announcements. She had arrived at Northwood High with a quiet enthusiasm, her dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, her outfits modest and unassuming. Cardigans over blouses, skirts that fell just below the knee. The students eyed her with suspicion, as they did all newcomers, sizing her up like predators testing the boundaries of a new territory. Was she strict, lenient, easily broken? They whispered about her in the hallways, their gazes lingering a beat too long. Eliza had always found solace in libraries. As a child growing up in a chaotic household, they were her escape pods, silent havens where no one questioned her introversion. Why was she so quiet? Why did she flinch at raised voices? Why did she bury herself in books instead of playing with other kids? Libraries didn't demand answers, they offered worlds where she could hide. Books never judged, never shoved her into lockers, never mocked her for being different. They were safe, predictable, kind in their stillness. Now, as an adult, she had turned that love into a career, teaching literature to high schoolers who mostly saw reading as a chore. She believed in the power of stories to heal, to transform. Kindness, she thought, could erode even the sharpest edges of cruelty. But beliefs, like fragile spines on old books, could crack under pressure. The bullies zeroed in on her during the second week. There were 4 of them, a tight, knit pack that ruled the school's social hierarchy through intimidation and charisma. Ryan led the group, tall and athletic, with the effortless confidence of a basketball captain whose dunks earned him cheers and whose smirks silenced critics. Mason was the enforcer, loud and boisterous, his cruelty amplified by the laughter that always trailed him like a loyal shadow. Eli was the quiet observer, his eyes perpetually scanning for weaknesses, saying little but absorbing everything. And then there was Jordan, the chronicler, always with his phone in hand, filming pranks and humiliations to post online for likes and shares that fueled their egos. It started small, as these things often do. Whispers hissed behind her back as she wrote on the chalkboard, words like frumpy and loser, floating just loud enough to sting but deniable if confronted. Anonymous notes appeared on her desk, scribbled with insults about her appearance or teaching style. Nice sweater, grandma. A chair subtly pulled back caused her to stumble during class, eliciting muffled giggles disguised as coughs. Eliza ignored it all. She told herself it was typical teenage rebellion, nothing she couldn't handle. Reporting it would only escalate things, make her seem weak. After all, they were just boys, hormonal, immature, testing limits. She had survived worse in her own youth. But silence is fertilizer for bullies. It lets their roots dig deeper, their actions grow bolder. One stormy afternoon, the rain pounded against the windows like impatient fists, driving students and staff home earlier than usual. The hallways emptied in a rush, leaving the school feeling abandoned and eerie. Eliza had volunteered to stay late, organizing a shipment of donated books for the library. The elderly librarian had called in sick with a migraine, and the principal, harried as always, had handed her the keys with a grateful nod. Lock up when you're done. Miss Carter, you're a lifesaver." She smiled politely, but as she entered the dim room, a faint unease prickled at her skin. Still, she pushed it aside, losing herself in the task, sorting novels by genre, stacking poetry collections, inhaling the comforting scent of printed pages. She didn't hear them enter at first, too absorbed in her work. The door clicked shut behind her, the sound muffled by the storm outside. Assuming it was a forgetful student retrieving a backpack, she didn't turn immediately. Then came the unmistakable snick of the lock engaging. Her heart stuttered, a cold dread pooling in her stomach. Slowly, she pivoted, her hands clutching a worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. Ryan stood there, flanked by his cronies, blocking the exit like a human barricade. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered uncertainly, casting erratic shadows across their faces. "Libraries closed," Ryan drawled, his voice casual but laced with menace. Eliza swallowed hard, forcing her tone to remain even. "Please move aside. This isn't funny." She could see the excitement in their eyes, the thrill of the hunt. Mason barked a laugh, stepping forward. "Chill out, Miss Carter. We just want to chat." They advanced as a unit, closing the distance. Eliza retreated instinctively, her back pressing against a sturdy bookshelf. A heavy tome dislodged and thudded to the floor, the slap echoing like a gunshot in the quiet space. Jordan pulled out his phone, the camera lens glinting like a predatory eye. "Smile for the birdie." "Stop," Eliza commanded, her voice rising with panic. "Put that away right now." Ryan leaned in, planting one hand on the shelf beside her head, trapping her. His cologne assaulted her senses, cheap, overpowering, mixed with the arrogance of untouchability. "You think you're better than us, don't you? Always prancing around like you don't even see us." "I see you," she whispered, her breath shallow. "I see you every day." "Then see this." The group pressed closer, their words escalating to threats morphing into physical intimidation. Hands grabbed at her arms, shoving her harder against the shelves. She screamed once, a sharp, piercing cry, before terror clamped her throat shut. In that fractured instant, something deep within her shattered, not into despair, but into clarity. Memories flooded back herself at 14, cornered in a school hallway by a gang of girls who sneered that she deserved it for being weird. Teachers who averted their eyes, pretending not to notice. The vow she made to herself then, huddled in a bathroom stall, if she ever gained power, she would never remain silent. She would fight back. Her breathing steadied, her gaze sharpened, turning from prey to predator. "You shouldn't have done this," she said, her voice low and steady. They laughed, a chorus of mockery. That was their fatal error. What they didn't know, what no one at Northwood knew, was that Eliza Carter was a survivor. She had endured far worse than these entitled teens. Abusive family dynamics, a high school rife with unchecked harassment, years of therapy to rebuild her shattered self. She carried scars but also tools. Her phone, nestled in her pocket, had an emergency app installed. A discreet shortcut for recording audio and video, uploading directly to the cloud in real time. Without breaking eye contact, she activated it. Then, projecting calm authority, she spoke clearly. "You are trespassing in a locked school building. You have confined a teacher against her will. You are recording without consent. You have 10 seconds to back away." The laughter sputtered. Eli fidgeted, glancing at the door. "Ryan, maybe we should." "Shut up," Ryan snarled. "She's bluffing." Eliza locked eyes with him. "No, I'm documenting." She recited their full names, their class schedules, even details about their families, parents' jobs, siblings' names, gleaned from school records and overheard conversations. "I listen," she added as Jordan's phone wavered. "That's what good teachers do." She stepped forward, and miraculously they retreated. Not from physical strength, but from the erosion of their confidence. Cowards crumble when faced with unyielding resolve. "Unlock the door," she commanded. "Walk out. Tomorrow this footage goes to the principal, the board, and the police, unless you apologize on camera right now." Silence descended, broken only by the relentless rain. Ryan scoffed, but his trembling hands betrayed him. One by one they folded. Mason mumbled an apology first, his voice cracking like a boy's. Jordan followed, tears carving paths down his cheeks as he deleted his footage. Eli stared at the floor, muttering regrets. Ryan lingered, defiant until the end. Eliza leaned closer, her whisper cutting like a blade. "You tried to shrink me, but you've only amplified my voice." He fumbled with the lock, and they bolted into the storm. The next morning the school hummed with whispers. By lunch, the video, carefully edited to protect identities but expose actions, had reached administration. Suspensions followed swiftly, 2 weeks for each, plus mandatory counseling. Parents arrived, faces ashen with mortification, promising stricter oversight at home. But the true transformation unfolded gradually. Students began seeking Eliza out, the quiet ones, the bruised souls who had hidden in shadows. A girl confided about online harassment. A boy admitted to self-harm triggered by peer pressure. Eliza listened without judgment, advocated fiercely, connecting them to resources. Northwood High evolved, not through fear, but through empathy. Anti-bullying workshops became mandatory, peer support groups flourished, and the library transformed into a hub for open dialogues. Years later, at a reunion, Eliza was asked why she persisted in teaching after that night. She smiled softly, her eyes reflecting hard-won wisdom. Bullies thrive in darkness. One voice can ignite the light. And in that library, amid shelves that once confined her, her story endured. A beacon for the voiceless. Silence shields the aggressor. Courage safeguards the vulnerable. Sometimes, the quietest hearts harbor the mightiest roars.